All right, so we'll continue with part two of the MGF 1106 final exam review. All right, starting with number 24, we have two similar triangles and we want to find the missing measure R. When you have similar triangles, you can compare the sides that correspond with each other, write a proportion, solve that proportion. So we've written out a comparison of the base of the big triangle, which is letter R, and we divided it by the base of the smaller triangle. So big triangle over little triangle would be R over 3. And then we compared the sides of the triangle. So we said this side, which makes our base, and then the height right here of the big triangle, you have to add 14 plus 4. So that height of the big triangle is 18. And then the height of the smaller triangle is 4. We're going to cross multiply here to solve. So we'll have 4 times R, or 4R. 18 times 3, the opposite diagonal would give us 54. And then we divide both sides by 4 to get R. Now, R is equal to 54 fourths. Our directions tell us to write a simplified fraction or an integer. An integer is a negative or positive whole number. Since 4 cannot be divided evenly into 54, we won't change this to a decimal. We'll just simplify this fraction, divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, and that'll give us our simplified fraction, 27 over 2, or 27 halves. So that's what we would input, 27 halves as our simplified fraction. For 25, we want to identify whether this set that's described is finite or infinite. Infinite would mean that that set continues on infinitely, either positive infinity or the direction of negative infinity. A finite set has a certain number of terms and no other elements. So we want to choose the correct answer to describe X, where X is a natural number, so those counting numbers, greater than 70. So a counting number that's greater than 7, is that an infinite set or a finite set? The answer to that is that it would be an infinite set, because although we're looking for values that are greater than 70, there's an infinite number of values on that number line that'll be greater than 70. So we would choose letter D in this case. The set is infinite because the number of elements in that set is not a whole number. It runs infinitely. For 26, a jug of cider contains 3 liters. How many 120 milliliter servings will be in that jug? So notice that we have two different, we have milliliters and we have liters. So we have two different increments. We need to change both our units to milliliters so that we can answer this question. To convert our 3 liters to milliliters, we need to remember that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So to change that liter from 3 to milliliters, we have to multiply by 1,000. Since each liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters, we're going to multiply 3 times 1,000. That'll give us 3,000 milliliters. And then to determine how many 120 milliliter servings there are in that jug, we just divide by 120. And when we divide this, we'll get 25 servings. For 27, we want to use the appropriate formula to find the perimeter and the area. Remember, the perimeter is the distance around the shape. So we'll just add all the sides of the triangle in order to determine what that perimeter would be. And we're asked to type an integer or a decimal for our perimeter here. All right, to find the perimeter, we need to look at our image that's given to us. We're defining this triangle as an isosceles triangle.
What we know about isosceles triangles is that they have 2 equal sides and 2 equal angles. So we went ahead and marked the equal angles, which would be these 2 base angles. Therefore, the sides that are across from those equal angles should be congruent as well. They should have the same length. So since this side on the right is 31.5, we went ahead and marked the side on the left as 31.5, since that is the side that is opposite the other equal angle. To find the perimeter, we add all 3 of these sides together, 31.5 plus 31.5 plus the 19, and that gives us 82 as our perimeter. For perimeter, our units would be millimeters. Then to find the area of the triangle, our formula to find the area is 1/2 base times height. Our base is 19, so we substitute 19 for the base, and our height is 30. We're given that height of 30. We multiply these two together and then divide by 2, and we get 285 square millimeters. For area, our unit should be millimeters to the second power. For 28, the statement is, where do we go from here? We want to know if this is a statement. For this to be a statement, remember, it could either be true or false. There couldn't be any ambiguity. Because this statement is not a yes or no question or a true or false question, we would say, no, this is not a statement. For 29, we want to evaluate this permutation of 12 items taken 5 at a time. Our formula we wrote over here to find that permutation. The number on the left, the number of items we have are 12. Our R value is 5, taken 5 at a time. The formula is n factorial over n minus r factorial. We substitute those values for 12 and 5, 12 being our n value, 5 being our r value. So we get 12 factorial over 12 minus 5 factorial. 12 minus 5 factorial is 7 factorial. And in our numerator, we went ahead and started expanding that factorial as 12 times 11 times 10 times 9 times 8, and then we stopped at 7 factorial. Since we have a 7 factorial in the denominator, we can cancel those 2 out, and then we multiply the numbers that are left over. 9 times 8 times 10 times 11 times 12, and we'll get our answer, which is 95,040. Now for number 29, we want to find x. If we're given the measures of angles 1, right here, we don't have the measure of angle 1. Actually, we want to find measure of angle 1 and 2, but we're given x is equal to 84 degrees. What we recognize here is that there's a set or 2 sets of vertical angles. Those angles that are opposite each other that make that bow tie shape, those are congruent. So since x is 84 degrees, then angle 2 would be 84 degrees. We went ahead and marked that here. To find the measure of angle 1, 1 and 2 together makes a straight angle. Remember, that equals 180 degrees. So to find the measure of angle 1, we subtract 84 from 180, and we get 96. That's the measure of angle 1. For number 31, we have a right triangle here, and we want to find this missing length, letter A. For that, we could use our Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b, remember, are legs of the triangle. We don't know one of the legs, so we left letter A the same. We do know the second leg, which is 24. So for B, we substitute 24 squared. C is going to be our hypotenuse. It's always the longest side, and it's always the side that's across from this 90-degree angle. So for C, we substitute here 26 squared. And then we solve, so we subtract 24 squared from both sides. That gives us A squared left on the left. And 26 squared minus 24 squared, that gave us 100. So we took the square root of 100 to get that missing leg, which is 10. The square root of 100 equals 10. Now for number 32, we had this climate data that was given to us and we were to create a stem and leaf plot. So for your stem and leaf plots, remember you're separating that last term from all of the terms that are in front of it. And then we want to list them in order. So we have some digits, our lowest digits that begin with 1, 0, and the highest one that begins in 13. And we just listed each number in order. And you want to just take your time and go through each of these digits and cross them off as you list them in order. But this is what your stem and leaf plot should look like after you taken all of your data and placed it in order. Now for number 33, we want to find the range for letter A and the standard deviation for letter B. The range is the highest number minus the lowest number. So look at our list. We have 25, 16, 34, 7, 25, 34, and 13. Our highest number is 34 minus our lowest number, which is 7. So 34 minus 7 gives us 27. That's our answer. To find the standard deviation, you're going to do a few things. First, you're going to find the mean. So you're going to add all those digits together. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 digits. So you add them all up and divide by 7, and we get 22 as our mean. Once you find the mean, then we want to get that standard deviation. So we want to know how far from the mean is each of these digits. So 25, our first digit, we want to know how far it is from 22. So we subtract 25 minus 22. Once you take that difference, you want to square it. So 25 minus 22 squared. We're going to add the difference. We want to find how far is 16 from 22. So 16 minus 22 squared. And then our next number, 34 minus 22 squared, 7 minus 22 squared, 25 minus 22 squared, and then 34 minus 22 squared, and 13 minus 22 squared. So we take those differences, square them, add them all up, and then we're going to divide by our formula, which is n minus 1. And we had 7 digits. So 7 minus 1 is how we get our 6 right here. Once you add all these numbers together, you want to divide by 6, and you should get 108. You then take the square root, and that'll give you the standard deviation, which is 10.39. For 34, we had this list of the top 10 nations and then the awards that they won during an Olympics tournament. First, we want to find the mean of the total number of medals. So we should be looking at that last column. This is the column for our total number of medals. The mean would be for us to add all these numbers together and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, divide by 10. So we're going to add them all up, 39 plus 31, 29, 23, 20, 17, 17, 15, 15, and 14 to get our sum. All right, so when we add all our digits together, we get 220, and then we divide by 10. We get 22. However, our directions tell us to round to the nearest 10th. 10th is one place after the decimal point, so we have to add 0.0 in order to have this number written in the correct form, which is that 22 to the 10th space. So that's letter A. Letter B, we were to find the median of all of those total number of medals and see how these medals are already listed in increasing order. We know that there are 10 numbers. If you have an even set of numbers, you want to find those 2 middle numbers and then average them together. Our 2 middle numbers are 20 and 17. Add them together, 20 plus 17, and divide by 2. And we'll get our median, which is 18.5. Then to find the mode or modes, the numbers that appear the most often in our list are 17 and 15. There are 2 15s and 2 17s. So our mode is 15, 17. We use that comma to separate those 2 modes. writing the negation of this statement. Now, to negate something means the opposite. So the art needs to be viewed. The opposite would be that the art does not need to be viewed. Letter A should be the correct choice. For 36, if the odds against an event are 1 to 3, that's 1 out of 3 chances that are against that event occurring. Okay, one of three, one out of 3. But what is the probability that that event will occur? That means there are 3 chances that it may occur. 1/3, 3 chances that it will occur. And we wrote this as 1/3. Let's write it in that same order. 1, 2, 3 chances. So 1 to 3 chances. Therefore, there are 3 chances that I could win. So that'll be 3 out of that total amount, 3 to 4, or 3/4, we could write it. For 37, we want to evaluate this expression without using a calculator. We're given 33 factorial in the numerator, so we simplified that as 33 times 32 times 31 factorial, and we stopped at the 31 because notice there's a 31 factorial in the denominator. We can cancel those 2 out. So now we just multiply 33 times 32 and then divide that by 2. So we'll get 1056 divided by 2. Our answer would be 528. For 38, write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. Converse of a regular statement, which will be written in this order. If then form our P, then Q. So if it is not 4 o'clock, then it is time to go. The converse would be for us to reverse that order, the inverse would be for us to reverse that order using not. So in our example, we were asked to first find the converse, reverse that order, our Q, then P. So we want to say if it is time to go, then it is not 4 o'clock, and that will be letter D. Finding the inverse, we reverse the order and we take the negation of both statements. So not P, then not Q. So remember what our P and Q are. So if not P, we're saying if it's not 4 o'clock, so the negation of that would be that it is 4 o'clock. So if it is 4 o'clock, then not Q. The negation of it being time to go would be not time to go. So letter A should be correct. And then the contrapositive. To find the contrapositive, we take the negation of that converse. So it's not Q, then not P. That's the order we want to see this. So not Q, then not P. So not Q would be not time to go. And then not P would be that it is 4 o'clock. And that should be letter B. For 39, we want to find the measure of each angle. And we're given this little box here to indicate this angle is 90 degrees. Therefore, the sum of these 2 expressions, when we add them together, we should get 90. So that's what we write here. First, we're going to add 6x plus 6. We want to add that expression to 10x plus 4 and set it equal to 90. Solving that equation, we combine like terms. 6x and 10x gives us 16x. And then 6 plus 4 gives us 10. We subtract 10 from both sides of that equation and divide by 16. So we get x equals 5. And then we go back and substitute 5 for x to determine the measure of each of these angles. 6 times 5 gives us 30 plus 6. That first angle at the top would be 36 degrees. The second angle, 10 times 5, that gives us 50 plus 4. That bottom angle is 54 degrees. For number 40, let Q, or the union, right? We want the union of all of those, that set would be Q, R, S, T, U, V, and W. Set A has Q, R, U, and V, and we want to find the complement of A. So the terms that are not in set A. So let's look here. We have Q that's in set A. So we want to remove that. R that's in set A, we want to remove that, U and V. So what's left over will be S, T, and W. That's our answer. 41, label the ray with endpoint B. So remember, a array has one endpoint and then it runs in the direction of either the left or the right. So which of these has an endpoint and is a ray with an endpoint at B is letter D. You see a segment, a line, and then a ray here, but the endpoint is A and not B. Choose the appropriate name for a ray whose endpoint is B, and that would be letter B. Endpoint at B and an arrow that runs in the direction of A. For 42, list all of the elements of this set. We're going to use set notation to describe this situation, and then use our listing method to describe that set. So here we have X's values such that X is an odd integer between -8 and 5. So we went ahead and listed all of those numbers on the number line from -8 to +5. Which of those are odd? -7, -1. We have -7, -5. -1 is over here, -3, +1, and 3. So we just list those digits here using a comma to separate them. -7, -5, -3, -1, +1, and 3. So this would be our solution. For 43, find the perimeter of this rectangle. If the perimeter is 42, we want to find the value of X. And we see this image where the width of the rectangle is 2x minus 5, and the length of the rectangle is 2x plus 6. Our formula to find the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So we went ahead and substituted our width, we substituted 2x minus 5, and our length, we substituted 2x plus 6. We distribute it here on the right side of the equation. 2 times 2x gives us 4x. 2 times 6 gives us 12. 2 times 2x again gives us 4x, and 2 times minus 5 gives us -10. We combine like terms. 4x and 4x, that gives us 8x. And then 12 minus 10 gives us 2. And that's equal to 42. Since our perimeter was given to us in the question as 42, we want to solve that equation. We subtract 2 from both sides. We get 8x equals 40, and then we divide by 8. 40 divided by 8 gives us x equals 5, and we found the value of x. That's our answer. For 44, we have a trapezoid here. In that trapezoid, you notice that the lengths around the trapezoid, the bases, are all in inches, but the height is given to us in feet. So we first need to convert that height to inches, okay? There are 12 inches in a foot, but we don't have a whole foot. We have 1/3 of a foot. So we take 12 and divide it by 3. That gives us 4 inches for the height. Now we can use our formula to find the area of this trapezoid. It's 1/2 the sum of the bases. This is our bases at the top and the bottom. So base 1 plus base 2, and then we multiply it times the height. So we substitute our bases 9 and 15 and our height of 4. Add those together, divide by 2, and then multiply by 4. We'll get 48 square inches, inches to the second power for our area. For the perimeter, we're going to add all the lengths around this trapezoid. So 5 plus 9 plus 5 plus 15, we get 34. 34 inches. Now for 45, we're asked to look at this question, and the temperature is given to us in Fahrenheit, but we want to know what -6 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to in Celsius. Our formula to convert to Celsius, we would multiply 5/9 times the Fahrenheit degrees minus 32. So here we were given our Fahrenheit degrees as -6, so we substitute -6 for F. -6 minus 32 is -9, well, -6 minus 32 times 5 gives us negative 90. And then we divide that by 9 to get negative 21.1. That decimal repeats, but we were asked to round to the nearest degree. That's the nearest whole number, which would be 21. So we list it as negative 21. For 46, we're going to classify this triangle first based on its angles and then on its sides. So we want to look at whether it's equilateral. That means all of the angles are equal, all three equal sides. Isosceles means that we have two equal sides and two equal angles. Scalene means that we have no equal sides, no equal angles. So no equal sides. And in our example, we were given an isosceles triangle. We have these two equal sides, and then we have an obtuse, a big angle that's larger than 90 degrees. So we would label this as isosceles and obtuse. And that concludes part 2 of our final exam review.